This is a story about land, dignity, and the unbreakable will of a people. A story that spans centuries of conquest, suffering, resistance, and ultimately, triumph. This is South Africa. Long before European ships arrived on its shores, South Africa was home to some of the world's oldest civilizations. The San people had lived on this land for tens of thousands of years, followed by the Khoikhoi, Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho, and many other nations, each with their own languages, governance, and deep connection to the earth beneath their feet. In 1652, the Dutch East India Company established a refreshment station at the Cape of Good Hope. What began as a small outpost would grow into a colony, and then an empire of oppression. The Dutch settlers, later known as Boers or Afrikaners, pushed inland, seizing land, enslaving people, and clashing violently with indigenous communities who had called this place home for generations. Britain seized the Cape Colony in 1806, bringing new laws, new tensions, and new conflicts. The Boers, unwilling to live under British rule, packed their wagons and trekked north in what became known as the Great Trek, founding their own republics. But the discovery of diamonds in 1867 and gold in 1886 changed everything. Suddenly, the world wanted a piece of South Africa, and Britain was willing to go to war to get it. In 1910, Britain merged 4 territories, the Cape Colony, Natal, the Transvaal, and the Orange River Colony, into the Union of South Africa. It was sold as a compromise, a peace agreement between British and Boer. But for black South Africans, it was a betrayal. The new constitution gave political power almost exclusively to white citizens. The majority had been written out of their own country's future. The African National Congress was founded in 1912 with a bold mission to unite black South Africans and demand equal rights. For decades, they pursued peaceful protest, petitions, and diplomacy. The government's response was more repression, more laws, and more land seizures. The 1913 Natives Land Act stripped black South Africans of the right to own land in 93% of the country. Poverty became policy. With the rise of apartheid in 1948, the struggle intensified. Those who had been marginalized were now being systematically oppressed under a legal system designed to enforce racial segregation and economic disparity. Despite the increasing oppression, a tide of resistance spread across the nation. Inspired by leaders like Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, and many others, ordinary people became part of an extraordinary movement. Women, men, young and old, stood on the front lines facing down tear gas and police batons with unwavering courage and unity. Marches, sit-ins, and boycotts became weapons of the oppressed. Then, in 1990, after years in prison, Nelson Mandela walked free. His release was a beacon of hope, a sign that centuries of injustices were being addressed. The dream of a free, democratic South Africa was within reach. In 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections. For the first time, black South Africans had a voice. People stood in long lines waiting for hours to cast their votes. The world watched as Mandela's presidency heralded a new era, one every South African had dreamed of. Freedom was finally a reality. Today, South Africa is rewriting its story, one that embraces progress, reconciliation, and a recognition of all its people as equal. The challenges are real. However, the spirit of the nation is resilient and hopeful. The road is long, but the journey continues. Every day, in the fields of innovation, education, and unity, the people of South Africa move closer to that promise of freedom and equality for all. This spirit is the true wealth of the nation.